Guys, welcome to the channel. If you liked the video, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. I could really use your help if you could go to www.myfavoriteyoutubechannel.weebly.com and support the channel. I need to make my internet by the 15th. So if you could do that, that'd be great help, and enjoy the video. This is the desktop tablet version of this presentation. Hello there, everybody. We're going to be talking about how government is a religion and religion is a government, and they both use black magic. They use black ink to produce spells and pronounce spells. So they do this for the purpose of thought control, to be able to, I guess, okay, well, this is not working the way that it's supposed to, so anyways, so yeah, government is a religion created by religion, or created from religion, I should say. Don't buy religion. Buy it, like go away. Same thing for government, but it's all about authority and wanting to get your energy, take ownership of you so that you lose self-ownership. And they do that with, again, they do that, it's a brainwashing technique. Governmental organizations. Again, govern is control, mental is thought, and organ, of course, where do you find organs? You find those in religious temples. So, the government and religion, they want your body and your soul. They want your energy, and they want to turn that into their power. And so the best way for them to do that was to introduce the economic monetary system to represent part of your time, work, energy as money. And the reason they wanted that institution or that system to exist was so they could extract part of that money, thus being some of your work and energy, and take that for themselves, and they call that tax and tithing. And these are two forms of profits, and they're both about money. Make no mistake about that. But I think maybe there was some times in the past where people were actually trying to be prophets for good reason. So let's kind of look at some of this. Again, religion, they want you looking up to them. That's why they build all these big, tall buildings, so that you have to look up. You get the point? They're looking for authority. And this is a ancient cult that started in Rome and Egypt, and even before that. And then what you're most familiar with is the European version of this. But you'll see here, you have this building here in Rome, and then you see this church here, and of course, obviously, that is pretty much the same kind of building. They put a spire up there because they want to inspire you. Anyways, yeah. So here's another church. This is another church here, right? And then here's another one, another church. And this church is in Washington, D.C. This church is in Rome. This church is in Rome, and this one's, who knows, in your neighborhood, in your town. It could be your very church. Now, what is significance about all this Roman stuff? Well, who killed Jesus? Who wanted God dead? And why would they want that? Why would you not want God here on earth, potentially to make heaven? Well, if it's not convenient to your system of slavery, well, then you want, that's just how that is. So they weren't very good folks. Again, they like you looking up, and again, they're governmental organizations. And they give you pipe dreams, right? And so here is the Capitol Rotunda for the Pennsylvania state capitol. And then this is a church. I think this church is in Rome as well. Here's the Washington, D.C. Capitol Rotunda. And this is the ceiling. And this is the top of the ceiling in a church. And so you see, they want you looking up, because if you look up, you think something else is a higher power above you. That's why you have to look up to them. It's a psychological trick. And it's again all for the purpose of authority. They want to be your higher power, right? They want to be the boss. And the boss is what? The guy that can hire, right? So this is the higher power, right? That's why they want you to go to school and get a what? A higher education. Okay, so it's a governmental organization. And as you see there, you take Zation and turn that Z on its side, and it becomes an N, and you have nations. What kind of nations? I don't know, maybe damn nations. It's all about thought control. So they want to get control of your brain. Why do they want control of your brain? Because God might be there, right? Because the kingdom of heaven won't be, people won't be able to say, oh, it's either here nor there. Now, I'm just using a Bible example. I'm not Christian. There's some truth in the Bible, but the Bible is not all truth. People have taken the Bible and they've done it like a basket of apples with 2 or 3 good apples in it, and the rest of the basket is all a bunch of bad, rotten apples. But they say, "Oh, we'll just take and eat them all." And that's just not the way you want to look at the Bible. But anyway, so if they got you looking up and thinking that your higher power is up there, then you won't be looking at each other. And since the kingdom of heaven is within you, that's what the Bible says anyways, the kingdom of heaven is within you, well then if you're looking at each other, you might find the kingdom of heaven. You might start making heaven on earth. But that wouldn't be convenient for the government. So they want control of your brain. That's why it's called Brain Washington, D.C. Because if they get control of your brain, if they brainwash you, little Brain Washington, D.C., then DeSeeVers, yeah. If they get control of your brain, then they control God. This is what religions and governments do. So here in the United States, they wanted to make the new Rome because, remember, Rome fell, but it really didn't fall. It just moved locations. Just look at the architecture at your state capitol or in Washington, D.C. Now, why did they do that? Again, it's part of religion. Why did religion invent government? So that government could carry out the atrocities of an evil God without people having to blame God and go, oh, well, God wouldn't do that. And the church can now say, no, God wouldn't do that. The government does that. The church preaches peace, but we know that they don't, depends on what Sunday. Depends on what day do they preach peace, because a lot of times they'll tell you how awful people are in other lands and how they're all sinners and enemies of God and just terrible things that they say about people, even though God made everybody. So the European version of this was called the government of Washington, D.C. in this case. Now, they also do this in England, but today we're going to just talk about Washington, D.C. Again, these are Brain Washington DeSeeVers, and they're deceiving you. They're calling themselves a divine child born of the Virginia, Maryland, the Virgin Mary, right? They're a divine child to set up the New Jerusalem. Where at? In the good old USA, right? And it's all about money. It's a sale. They're having a sale. It's a big sale. They're having some money. And so, again, DC, your divine child. And what does the government and religion always want? Part of your energy. And how do they get it? Through money. Dollars and cents. Stuff that comes from the Bureau of Engraving. Where was the Bureau at? In what? Engraving, right? This is a Bureau of Engraving. This is a spell. It's a magic spell. Right? And these are graven images. Look at this. This is a graven image. You ever felt gypped before? Like maybe you got Egypt? Maybe they gypped you? Right? They got these Roman numerals down here that add up to 1776. But if you put them in 3 pyramids like this, which how many great pyramids were there in Egypt? 3. And you get 666. Graven images, GI, soldiers. Why? They want to kill your soul. Soul dyers, right? Soul, right? Die. So our soul dies. This is what this says. Our soul dies. Die our soul. Kill our soul. Now, soul is the Spanish word for sun, right? And so this is a sun. So this is killing the sun or the light of the world. And this is, of course, sun, because people send their sons and daughters off to war. It used to be just sons, but now they've decided that they want to put our women in danger's way, too. I don't understand that. But and so what happens if you go and agree to kill people and shoot people and go to war with people you don't know, never met, and as far as you really, truly know, have never done you any harm? What happens if you go and agree to do that? You sold what? Sold your what? Sold your soul, maybe. Maybe you sold your soul. All right? Soul dyers. They're trying to kill your soul. They're trying to kill the sun, the light of the world. They want you to be sold yours, man. It's all about graven images, working for the dead, deified dead presidents that they often call gods. See, D, these 2 letters spelled D, and this is C, the abbreviation. These are DeSeeVers, man. Washington, DeSeeVers. And again, it's about dollars and cents. It's about denominations of religion, religious denominations, and denominations of money. What denominations is your money in? And where did it come from? Did it come from some damnation? Right? Damn. When God damns something, it's DAMN, right? Damnation. So now you can see how that works. It's all a spell. So again, it's money is a representation of your stored energy. And of course, where do you have to take your money? To the store, right? That's where you go with your money. You go to the store. Because the truth or love has been restored. It's either the gospel or freedom that's for sale. That's why they call it freedom instead of free good or free smart or, any of that kind of stuff. They just call it freedom. And so the more energy they get from you, the more powerful they become. Right? The more powerful the more powerful the government and religion is, the more of your energy and stuff that they get. So again, these are DeSeeVers, man. And is money the root of all evil, or is it the seed? Right? See, there's a C and a D, right? And you heard of the term seed money, right? Of course, the government uses they say something about the C and stuff with the law. Maybe it's the Holy See. So how do they do that? They do it with books, inks, and business. Right? It's all about turning people into business, and that is a sin. It's people for profits, and they use ink to do that. Right? They use ink to do that, and they use ink to do that, and they use ink to do that. Boo! What kind of spirit is in the book that you're reading? And are you sure it's the spirit that you're being told it is? Because if that spirit's supposed to be good but says awful, evil things, then you ought to rethink about accepting everything in that book. So books and prophets and things in graves and sentences, because that's what governments do. They write books and they sentence people, and it's all about pronouncements and spelling like they do in religion, casting all kinds of religious and spells. And it's a test of how much money they can get. Now you might call it a testimony, but they call it a test of money. How much can they get from you? Again, they use ink. Now, what is ink made from? Iron sulfate. Why did they use iron sulfate? Because that's a spell too. It's all about magic. Iron sulfate. Iron sulfate. Iron sulfate. You see how it's just a trick? It's you're earning the sun's fate by writing a book about the Son of God, who is actually God. Or maybe it's about burning in hell, right? You earn the sulfate, burn them up to ashes, and then what's their fate? Oh, is it a fate in hell for all eternity or heaven for all eternity? What if heaven was supposed to happen while you're alive, not when you're dead? Because these religions and governments that talk about divine child and sun gods have turned their God into a god of the dead. And they want you working for the dead. That's why you have presidents on money, right? Dead presidents and churches that do work for the dead and they have dedications and, how dedicated are you to these different things? And they want the soul dead, right? And it's the soul and the sun and the sun and it's the soul fate. So what kind of fate are they giving your soul when they bind you with rules of grammar? Why? Why grammar? Right? Why is it called grammar? Because grammar is about wait. They want you waiting to experience heaven till after you die, so they get to experience heaven on earth. Right? The super rich people that had the governments and religions seem to have plenty of money in it, and they often look like they live in heaven. But they ruin it for everybody, including themselves. They want to put the light out. The light within you. Because the kingdom of heaven is within you. Now, God is a very specific person, and God is love. But God is not a bunch of these awful things that they say. God didn't tell Abraham to sacrifice his son because God knows everybody's heart. That's what the Bible says. Now, that may not actually be true, but God has faith in everybody. That's something that God can't seem to shake. He can't give up having faith. And so how do they do all this again? With ink made of iron sulfate? And ink comes in, and when it started out, it came in a well. It came in an ink well because they were writing their way to wealth, right? Wealth. Now, do you think that was the right thing to do? Well, that depends on what it is you're saying when you say right. And why do we say do the right thing? Because they want you to follow their laws. They want you to bury your face in the books and be a part of the fold. Because how do you open and close a book? You fold them. They want you being a part of their fold. Okay, because they want you to fight. And there's really this word fight doesn't seem to exist this way, because that's a fig, right? And then we've got fight here, F-I-T, but they pronounce that fet, prophet, right? It's just all magic spells. It's the business of owning people, ruling and leaders. Now we talked about a pen and iron sulfate, right? The ink that's made with iron sulfate. But we talked, or you could also talk about pencils and how they're made out of lead. And if you write something down and tell people they have to obey, then that's turning lead into gold, because you say, here's my rules and my laws, pay and obey. It's called alchemy, turning lead into gold, pencil lead into gold. And once you've got it penciled in, then you can write it in pen, right? Or write it in stone. But even God knew that you shouldn't write laws in stone. But you might do it. Kind of hard to explain that one. I'll have to touch on that later. Government, again, government being a religion. Governor. It's funny how those words end and begin with the same letter. Governor and religion. Now, what again, we remember what govern means. It means control. So they're trying to control you, and then they tell you that you're free, but they love the word freedom. And again, it's about authority. Why? Because they're making money. Now, money used to be backed by gold, right? And so if you pay and obey, they're doing pretty well, because you're doing what they say, which means you're not free, and it means you pay because you're not free. And how did you have to pay? With gold. This is the periodic table symbol for gold. This is Thor, a god with a hammer, right? And so these are authority, people who write the law, whether it's government law or religious law, because they're both the same thing. Now, they want you to pay and obey. Now, you always heard that, justice is for sale, but justice is not God's way of doing things. God is love, and this is not love. This is not love. And the black robes are not love, and the priest robes, there's some good people out there, but this idea, all they did was take the hood off of this thing, because this is a satanic priesthood, right? And that's what these robes are. That's what all this is about. Again, this is black magic. And so they have scales and scales. Why do we call them scales? Well, who's the authority? Who writes the law? The lawyers, right? And that's why they call them lawyers. But is it your law, or is it their law that you have to pay for? They call themselves lawyers because they force their law on you. Again, this is about turning lead into gold. It's an alchemy thing. It's writing authority. So they get money. And of course, here's an interesting thing. money. If you take the tail and you hide it, the Y looks like a V, right? And so you have venom, venom. And what has venom? Snakes. And what do snakes have? Scales. And why do they have scales? Because that's what the scribes and Pharisees are. They weigh the people down. They burden them. They put heavy things on them and make them feel bad. So, are you paying the price for the government's license? How do you get from A to B? We can free you from sin for just however much money, and then you'll be worthy of being forgiven. You'll be worthy of the blessings of heaven. You'll be worthy to call yourself a member of society. What kind of society? The law society, right? The givers of the law. And whew, pew, that stinks. Well, that's my video. That gives you an idea about government and how government is a religion. Definitely, very much a religion. The religion of government and the religion of religion. Or the religion of government and the government of religion. Pay and obey.